My boyfriend is forcing me to let him drive my father's Ferrari and has told the whole campus that he's throwing a party at our house. I paid for everything whenever we went out on a date. I always footed the bill. I didn't think much of it because I have so much, and he doesn't. So I thought it was natural and that I was just being a good girlfriend. I drove him everywhere, and he would often guilt me into buying him things he wanted, sometimes expensive things like $200 Jordans or $50 for the weekend. I got him a new Samsung Galaxy phone for Christmas, but he never bought me anything, not once, not even a handmade gift, a small thoughtful gesture, or even a flower. It didn't need to be elaborate or expensive, but he didn't get me anything to show he was thinking about me. I didn't want to measure our relationship based on material things, so I let it go. He would often tease me and make fun of me for being a spoiled rich daddy's girl and for going to an exclusive private school. He made fun of me because my dad bought me a Mercedes, but he never had a problem with me driving him around in it. He would make fun of me for taking school seriously, maintaining a 4.0 GPA, and turning down parties or other things because I had papers to write or tests to study for. He often told me I didn't know what the real world was like because I grew up in a wealthy neighborhood around rich people and didn't know what the world was really like. He was right about that. I grew up much more sheltered than average people and with a lot more than most people have. Most people don't get a Mercedes for their 16th birthday, ski trips to the Alps, or summer trips to St. Bart's. I know that's not normal, and I don't know what normal is, so I took his word that I had a sheltered life and that he knew better about the real world. He introduced me to his friends as his hot rich girlfriend, which I assumed was supposed to be a compliment. He never said these things in a way that seemed overtly insulting. He always said them as a joke with a smile. So I trusted that he cared about me and that this was all just a difference in our upbringing. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I was probably naive. Anyway, my dad is wealthy. Not mega-rich billionaire wealthy, but pretty well off. My dad owns a Ferrari 512 supercar that he loves. He takes it out to drive a few times a month when he can and usually likes to take it to a local track. He's very protective of that car and doesn't want anyone driving it. He let me drive it once at the track with a race car driver instructor, but honestly, I am quite afraid of it. It's really powerful, and there are more cars than I can handle. My boyfriend saw my dad's car when he was over and asked me if he could drive it. I told him he would have to ask my dad because it's his, not mine, but I don't think he would let him because my dad doesn't want anyone driving it. He left it alone for a while, but later brought it up with my dad, who said no. My dad said he let me drive it once on a track with a race driver in the passenger seat and didn't trust anyone else to drive it. So when my dad went out of town, my boyfriend started asking me to let him drive the car while my dad was gone. He kept asking me where the keys were and if he could just take it for a spin, and I kept telling him no. It made me uncomfortable, but he kept asking. Finally, he got mad at me, called me selfish, and said I should be supportive of him, that I should understand he doesn't have a rich family and will probably never have this opportunity again, and that if I loved him, I would do this for him. I don't know. I get that he doesn't have another chance to drive this car, but it's just a car, and my dad would be upset if I let him. Update. My boyfriend texted me about throwing a party at my house while my dad was gone. I said no. I've been to high school parties, and I know what happens. I don't want my house trashed. So I told him this, and he gave me a line he often used with me about needing to have more fun. I told him I didn't think cleaning up my dad's wrecked house was fun. He left it alone, or so I thought. I was in school the next day when one of my best friends approached me. She was rather mad and wanted to know why I hadn't told her about the party first. I was surprised and told her there was no party. I wanted to know where she heard that from, but I already knew. She told me she had heard it from her friend, who went to my ex's school, and that everyone there was talking about it, and it had spread to my school. I knew it was him, so I called him. He admitted that he had told everyone I was having a party and had started spreading the word at school the previous day before he had even asked me about it. I was livid. I told him he had no right to invite his entire school to my house without even asking me first. We got into a big fight about it, and then he told me what he really thought of me. I was sort of devastated to hear this. He called me boring, basic, spoiled, and entitled. And this time he wasn't joking. He said I had to stick up my back and needed to learn how to lighten up and have fun. He called me a daddy's girl and accused me of caring more about grades and impressing my father than anything else. He even accused me of being like Olivia Jade and having my dad buy my way into college. That one stung because I worked hard through high school to get accepted into a good university. And it was also just like, what in the world? Because here he was, making fun of me for working too hard in school and at the same time saying I didn't earn my spot. So which one is it? Anyway, we fought, and he said nasty things to me. Finally, I told him that if I was so boring, he could find a new and exciting girlfriend to drive him around and pay for everything because I was done. I wish it ended there, but I still had this party rumor flying around at least 2 schools. I didn't want to call my dad about this. I wanted to take care of it on my own, to handle him on my own. I didn't want to admit to my dad that I had made a really poor choice in dating him. I didn't want my dad to have to bail me out the week he left. I wanted to show I was mature and grown up enough to fix this alone, but I just didn't know how to stop all these people from showing up. So I swallowed my pride, called my dad after school, and told him everything. I tried not to cry, but I did. My dad was mad, but he wasn't mad at me. He thanked me for telling him and reassured me that I had done the right thing. My dad called a friend of his at the sheriff's office. I feel some kind of way about this because I know how people think about the police right now, and I know that this shows off my privilege. I doubt this would have happened for many other people, but the sheriff told him they'd post a deputy on our block over the weekend. My dad also sent me a pair of bodyguards for the weekend to ensure no one tried to break in. He said I was allowed to have a few friends over the weekend, but to keep it clean, no raging parties, no mess, etc. You know, standard parent stuff. That week, a few of my close friends stayed with me after school while I cried about all of this, and they helped me spread the word that there was no party. Friday came along, and a few of my friends came back home with me after school. We decided we'd do an 80s movie night, like I mentioned, and we put Ferris Bueller's Day Off on the list. We closed the gate and put up a sign that there was no party. Private security showed up like my dad said, and we bunkered down for the night and watched many 80s movies. A few people did show up, but they were chased off by the locked gate and the deputy hanging out on the block. We were able to dissuade most of them from showing up. I don't know how many because I stayed inside with my girls, watching movies, and tried to ignore anything happening outside. I felt, and continue to feel, bad about it all. First, I feel like I wasted a lot of people's time. I know. The police have more important things to do than babysit me in my house from teenagers. I know those bodyguards have more important people to protect than a teenage girl from a party. I know that most people could never manage this. It all drove home just how privileged I am, and honestly, how my ex was right that I do live in a different and sheltered world from everyone else. And then there's the damage to my social life, lol. I'm single now with no date to prom, and I caught a lot of grief from a lot of our mutual social circle over this. I've been called spoiled, basic, a snitch, Karen and Becky. Even some of the kids at my school were disappointed. I know many kids at my school who have thrown or will throw parties at their parents' houses, so they expected me to do the same. So, besides my closest friends, I'm pretty much a pariah now. But, whatever. It's not like I really care about that anymore. In the end, I have 2 months left until graduation, and then I'm out of here. Next fall, I'll be starting college out of state, and all of this will be behind me. After all this happened, I told my dad how the weekend had gone. I teased him and said, "Wow, Dad, you really went to great lengths to protect your stuff." But he just smiled and said, "I wasn't protecting my stuff, I was protecting you." That hit me hard. I realized that, for all the ways my ex made me feel small and unimportant, my dad was always there, willing to do anything to make sure I was safe. I'm grateful for that, and it's something I won't forget. I may have lost a boyfriend and some social standing, but I think I've gained something more important, a better understanding of who I am and what I'm worth. And that's a lesson I'm going to carry with me into the future.